chat bit in between, because I had a feeling that I might just waffle on for hours on end, and that Leigh would be sitting there by the piano and not really know.
Tiff. Get on with it, love.
I'd like to talk about the night. I'd like to talk about the day. I'd like to talk about the weather. But I guess that's just cliché. I'd like to talk a little Latin, maybe talk a little Greek. I'd like to talk about the arts. I saw Benedict Cumberbatch in Hamlet just last week. I'd like to talk about my poems, how I shy away from rhyme. I'd like to talk about the 5-star review that Kiss Me Kate got in the Times. Oh yeah. I'd like to talk about Euripides and Schopenhauer and Bach. And if there's any doubt remaining, I'll be happy just to talk. But words, I can never find the words. I'd like to talk about the deepest sort of feelings that I hold. I'd like to talk about the underlying truth, if truth be told. I'd like to talk about the touching that can bring the sensations out. I'd like to talk about the things I guess I shouldn't talk about. I'd like to talk about my feelings when the lights are turned down low. I'd like to talk about my needs above the covers and below. I'd like to talk about my fantasies by light of evening star. I'd like to talk about a million things.
Oh, fuck me, Tiff, you are.
But words. I'd like to talk about the world I never get to see from home. I'd like to talk about Caracas and the Pleiades in Rome. I'd like to talk about the rise. I'd like to talk about the fall. I'd like to talk about your doings of your big stick back and all. Oh, not that I approve, but when it's all been said and done, I mean, you gotta give them this. The Roman sure could have some fun. And then again, you got the French, the Pakistani, and the Dutch. And tell me, Leigh, is it me or am I talking way too much? I'd like to talk about my heroes that can always give me hope. I'd like to talk about de Bergerac and Batman and the Pope. I'd like to talk about the future, maybe talk about the past, or maybe talk a lot of nothing, only say it really fast. Talk about society and talk about the rotten, maybe talk about the egrets, though I'd really rather not. Talk about the flowers and the meadows and the birds. I'd like to talk about it all if I could only find the words. I'd like to talk about this, maybe talk about that, and maybe talk a little photo and chew a little fat. Talk about the A's and maybe talk about the C's, trying to make it through the alphabet as quickly as please. Talk about a book and maybe talk about a play, maybe talk about a million things I never get to say. Talk about myself, who I give it down. I like to talk about a million things that look at me.